Nice to see you again, Dianne. I just have seen a lot of siblings having issues when it comes to the parents' home and when the parents go into aged care. And I just wonder whether you have any expert advice on how the siblings can limit the issues that can form between them when trying to work out what is going on with the parent that's going into care. Have you got any sort of advice on what you think they could do to be prepared for that? Because I don't think people are very prepared for the differences between the siblings.
Definitely. Mostly people step back. There's usually one family member that puts their hand up to help until there's an issue, particularly with the selling of the house, and then, that's my inheritance.
Ah, yes.
So, it's a bit, for me, the most important person, and sometimes they're not in the room, is the resident going into care. Mm-hmm. So I have to remind them that their duty, especially if they're power of attorney for mum or dad, that their obligation is always doing the right thing by the parent.
Yes.
Not themselves. So, and there's a lot of elderly, they call it elderly abuse in our world.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you have to prove that any decisions that you make on behalf of the person that you've got the power of attorney for is in their absolute best interest.
So how does somebody prove that? Like, in that situation, I mean, just thinking about, like, if you make a decision and you're challenged on that, how can you prove that? Well,
for example, the house might be worth $1 million, but someone in the family wants to buy it for $500,000.
Okay.
Is that in the best interest of mum or dad or nana? No. So definitely those sort of things have to be reported. Okay. And sometimes I have never had to do it, but the obligation is that you're not abusing, or using their funds or selling things or assets that are worth less than they have, or looking at buying the cheapest room because, that's the,
impacts on what they get in the end.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, because a lot of whatever they pay for the room is 100% refundable back to the estate anyway. But occasionally I have to remind them that certain siblings, that it's about their parent, not about them. Yeah. And if there's, my favourite saying, if there's 20 cents left over at the end of the day and there's two of you, you'll get 10 cents each. So yes. It's about what's, giving your parent the best life in whatever lifetime they've got left, not about what you're going to get at the end of it.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the parent is the one that's being looked after.
It has to be. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
It's really nice to talk to you about that situation and hear your thoughts. And I love I love to hear that whatever is contributed actually comes back to the estate. I don't think everybody understands that. So that's a really important point.
So, for example, if the room cost $500,000, it's actually guaranteed by the government. So if you pay a refundable accommodation deposit, they call it a RAD, for $500,000 on death, is provided everyone's paid their bills along the way, that $500,000 goes directly to the estate and whatever the will says. So, yeah.
That's great. Good
guaranteed.
To know.
So it's not like I suppose self-care, where you're going into retirement living. There's a whole lot of different rules. That's under different legislation. So aged care is actually under the federal government. So they back. I've only heard probably in the last 20 years 2 cases where the government had to fund the deposit because the facility didn't have the funds. So they have to have, like banks, they have to have a reserve.
Yes.
Because as people leave, they're obligated to pay the estate within less than 14 days. So otherwise they have to pay the interest.
Ah, very interesting.
So it's very, very safe.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your advice once again.
Thank you.